Welcome to this edition of the Native News Update. I'm your host for today's edition, Paul Demain. Many of the stories and information here are found at our website, IndianCountryNews.com, where your online membership helps support this television station. Here are some of the news updates for the day from the wires and other Native news sources. Seneca Nation President Barry Snyder of Irving, New York, accused Governor David Paterson of knowingly signing a flawed bill into law to avoid an embarrassing override by state lawmakers had he vetoed the measure instead. A day after Paterson approved legislation intended to enforce the collection of excise taxes on cigarettes sold at Indian-owned stores in New York, an angry Snyder said this week that tribal leaders were weighing options that include legal action and a media campaign in protest. In letters to Paterson and President George Bush, Snyder said the law tramples on guarantees the tribe had under the 1794 Canandaigua Treaty, including the right to free use and enjoyment of its land. Although Snyder declined to detail the action tribal leaders might take, he ruled out a repeat of the tire-burning protests that shut down a 30-mile stretch of the New York State Thruway in 1977. During a previous attempt by the state to collect taxes from wholesalers who supply Indian retailers. The Tacoma City Council is considering an agreement to settle a lawsuit with the Skokomish tribe in the state of Washington over two dams the city built in the 1920s on the Skokomish River. The Tacoma News Tribune reports the council will take up a settlement proposal that will pay $13 million and transfer 1,100 acres of Tacoma Power property to the tribe. In return, the tribe would drop all claims in its lawsuit. The Tacoma Public Utilities Board approved the deal this month, contingent on the utility receiving a 40-year federal license to operate the hydroelectric project. It generates enough electricity for 25,000 homes. The tribe says the dams wiped out fishing and hunting grounds used by the tribe. A new interpretive sign at Mill Creek in Fort A.P. Hill, Virginia, will inform visitors of the American Indians who once lived there and the plant and wildlife species that cohabited with them. The three-county area of Essex, Caroline and King, and Queen was part of the Rappahannock tribe's territory. Chief Ann Richardson said her tribe's ancestors also lived with several other tribes after being moved by the English to a town in the area of the U.S. Army's Fort A.P. Hill. Volunteers cleaned up the area surrounding Mill Creek recently and during September to return the land to its natural and historic state when American Indians lived and fished along its banks. The new sign was unveiled earlier this month to coincide with the National Public Lands Day 2008. Robbie Romero and Stacy Thunder, owners of the Taos, New Mexico-based Eagle Thunder Entertainment, have launched a call-to-action email campaign to raise awareness and to help protect Native people's sacred sites, including the National Wildlife Refuge. The email campaign, sponsored by Romero and Thunder's organization Native Children's Survival, began earlier this year and will continue through the holiday season. The funds that are raised through the campaign will go to grassroots Native organizations that are on the front lines of the struggle to protect this and other Native sacred sites. For more information about the email campaign and Native Children's Survival, visit www.eaglethunder.com. In the tradition of delegations of American Indians traveling in the late 1800s to Washington, D.C. to meet the Great White Father, chiefs from Canada's First Nations will be traveling to the U.S. Capitol to seek support of President-elect Obama in their fight for human rights, according to a press release from the Assembly of First Nations out of Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. A First Nations delegation of chiefs from across Canada will be in Washington, D.C. on January 8, 2009 12 days before the inauguration of Obama begins. Chiefs from the 7 First Nations of Treaty 1 announced a decision to assemble the delegation of chiefs to deliver a message of oil and human rights to the president-elect. Chief Glenn Hudson of Peguas First Nation, a spokesman for Treaty 1, stated, "We are hopeful that President-elect Obama will embrace the attitude of respect, compassion, and support by engaging in the accountability of equitable and fair trade between the United States, the Indian nations, and the Canadian government. So far, Canada pays little or no royalties to Indigenous people for the resources," he said. The First Nations delegation of chiefs seeks to have Obama apply international pressure on Canada, the largest supplier of crude oil to the U.S., to share resource wealth with the Indigenous people of Canada. The AFN is the national political representative of 633 First Nations in Canada. The White Wolf Media Group of Helena, Montana, and its investment partners are working to prepare a bid for the purchase of the daily newspaper Rocky Mountain News, according to a news release earlier this month. White Wolf Media learned that the E.W. Scripps Company had decided to offer for sale its Denver-based daily newspaper, the Rocky Mountain News, as well as the newspaper's 50% interest in the Denver Newspaper Agency, which publishes the Rocky Mountain News and the Denver Post under a joint operating agreement. The White Wolf Media Group is putting together a team of individuals to help analyze the potential of the acquisition and prepare a possible bid. The media group is confident that the newspaper, as well as others, will rebound to the standings in the communities they serve as the economy recovers. The Rocky Mountain News has a historical connection with his tribe, the Northern Cheyenne of Montana, and the Sand Creek Massacre of 1864. The newspaper covered the events of the day during the massacre and the investigations afterward. The White Wolf Media Group is affiliated with IndianCountryTV.com as a digital partner, streaming news and interviews from Montana under the Native View program. An Eskimo dance group from Barrow, Alaska, led by an 80-year-old elder, Warren Matamik, will be one of 2 groups from Alaska marching in the presidential inauguration parade in Washington, D.C. on January 20th. Rex A. Okoki, Sr. of Barrow, who sought the invitation for the Sir Imanitchayawat dance group to perform, said those participating are very pleased and excited to be part of the new president's celebration. The group has 22 members who will be making the trip. The dancers have been performing for nearly 20 years and have performers of all ages. Okakok, a former whaling harpooner, was a delegate to the National Convention in Denver last summer for the Democratic Party. The dance group is seeking financial contributions to help cover the cost of the trip. You can find out about making a donation by calling Eunice Brower at the Village of Barrow at 907-852-4411. The other Alaskan group invited to march in the inaugural parade is Colony High School Marching Band, the Presidential Inauguration Committee recently announced. This edition of IndianCountryTV.com is brought to you with the help of our digital mall partners, powwows.com and nativeview.com, broadcasting from Montana. And I want to thank our studio assistants today, Kim Acosta, Nick Vanderpie, and Dale Kakak. Join us again for the latest edition of Native News Update in the near future. Thank you.